Latrell Sprewell. He started out strong after getting picked 24th in the 1992 draft by the Warriors. Right away, he became a starter, made all-rookie second team, and stacked up 4 All-Star appearances over the years. His peak saw him averaging over 18 points per game across more than 900 games. But his biggest headline? Choking his coach in '97. That stunt cost him 68 games and over $6 million. Still, he got his contract reinstated, which was worth more than $16 million. Then came the real turning point. In 2004, the Timberwolves offered him a 3-year deal worth $21 million. He turned it down and said he had a family to feed. That moment basically ended his career. No one signed him after the 2004 to 2005 season. After that, his finances fell apart. He lost a yacht that he defaulted over $1 million on. 2 of his homes were foreclosed, one in Milwaukee and another in Westchester County. By 2011, he owed the state of Wisconsin up to $3.5 million in taxes. His ex sued him for $200 million over promised college money. Now, his estimated net worth is about $150,000. Allen Iverson. The guy earned over $200 million in his career and still managed to go broke. Drafted first overall in 1996, he became one of the most electrifying guards ever. 11 All-Star games, an MVP in 2001, and 4 scoring titles. But off the court, that's where things fell apart. He ran with a crew of about 50 people and spent big on everyone. Cars, vacations, even gave a Bentley to a teammate. He owned a Maybach, a Bentley, and a Lamborghini. Spent up to $40,000 a night at clubs. Tried launching a clothing line that reportedly flopped hard and may have cost him around $40 million. Then the debts piled up. By 2012, he got sued by a jeweler for nearly $900,000. He told the court he didn't have enough for a cheeseburger. Things got worse. That same year, during a divorce, he filed for bankruptcy. The numbers were brutal. $62,000 a month coming in, but spending $360,000. Child support and legal costs just drained him. The only thing that saved him? Reebok. His lifetime deal pays $800,000 a year and guarantees $32 million at age 55. Right now, his net worth's barely $1 million. Antoine Walker. Drafted 6th in 1996, he came in hot with the Celtics and made all-rookie first team. Over the next 12 years, he'd become a 3-time All-Star and win a championship with Miami in 2006. By the end, he earned over $108 million from salary alone, but it didn't last. He blew money on a car obsession, owning up to 10 luxury vehicles at once, including a Maybach worth nearly $500,000. Then came the watches, 15 to 20 elite timepieces just sitting there. He built a massive 15,000 square foot mansion for his mom, complete with an indoor pool, then lost it. He supported around 30 friends and family, basically playing the role of an ATM. A trip to Vegas cost him over $1 million in gambling in just 6 weeks. When the 2008 crash wrecked his real estate investments, the whole thing crumbled. He owed over $800,000 in gambling debts and filed bankruptcy in 2010 with $12 million in liabilities. Even his championship ring got sold, but by 2013, he cleared the debt. He's now a financial educator for athletes, teaming with Morgan Stanley. He preaches long-term wealth now, after losing almost everything. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Jason Caffey, drafted 20th in 1995 by the Bulls. He grabbed 2 championships early with Chicago before playing for the Warriors and finishing with Milwaukee. Over a 10-year career, he averaged around 7 points and 4 rebounds per game and pulled in about $34 million in salary. Then it all went downhill. He had 10 children with 8 women, which led to monthly child support payments stacking up like unpaid rent in a ghost town. One court said he owed over $200,000 in support to just one mother. He filed for bankruptcy in 2007, listing $1.9 million in debts against only $1.15 million in assets. That bankruptcy attempt got dismissed in 2008 because of unresolved child support debt. He even faced jail time for failure to pay. His assets: a house, a sports bar, daycare centers, a Dodge Charger, and 2 NBA rings. Still, his expenses hit $15,000 a month, while income from business ventures was only around $11,000. He borrowed $50,000 from his mom just to stay afloat, but he didn't quit. He opened more businesses, battled anxiety, wrote a book, and ran for city council. That's a turnaround you don't see every day. Greg Oden, drafted first in 2007, he signed a rookie deal worth over $21 million, but a knee surgery kept him out his entire first year. He barely played over the next few seasons, starting only 66 games in total before getting waived by Portland in 2012. He signed 1-year deals with Miami and then a team in China, adding about $2 million more. Still, injuries crushed his momentum and he missed out on what he says could have been $20 million extra if he'd stuck around when the salary cap exploded. His finances took hits too. Early on, he bought luxury cars and houses for family and friends without tracking his account balance. By 2018, he was close to bankruptcy. He even admitted he didn't know how much money he had at times, just trusting other people to handle it. Now he works at Butler University as director of basketball operations and partners with a financial education firm. He teaches athletes how to manage their money the way he wishes he had. Oden's story proves wealth can fade fast if you don't take control early. Darius Miles, picked third straight out of high school. In 2000, he made history as the highest prep-to-pro pick ever at the time. He hit the ground running with the Clippers and earned all-rookie first-team honors. But after just 8 seasons split between 4 teams, injuries derailed his career, especially a brutal knee injury in 2006. He was effectively out of the league by 2009. Despite all that, he made around $62 million in NBA salary. Miles also had endorsement deals and even got into acting, with roles in a couple of early 2000s movies. But by 2016, he filed for bankruptcy, listing about $1.57 million in debt and just $460,000 in assets. He owed over $200,000 to the IRS and had serious child support debt. The kicker? Most of his downfall came from shady investments, not wild spending. After his mom passed in 2013, he spiraled into depression and eventually auctioned off personal belongings to pay bills. But he clawed back. He moved to Florida, reconnected with Quentin Richardson, and launched the Knuckleheads podcast. In 2023, he got probation for healthcare fraud, but his life's finally steadying out. Delonte West, drafted 24th in 2004. He played 8 seasons across 4 teams and earned about $16.4 million in NBA salary. But despite that, he's now living in near poverty. His bipolar disorder, diagnosed in 2008, mixed with substance abuse and personal losses, set off a downward spiral. He got arrested in 2009 for weapons charges, divorced twice, and at one point lived in a locker room during the NBA lockout. He sold off cars and jewelry, applied for jobs at home improvement stores, and still came up short. Legal fees, medical bills, and family obligations drained his savings fast. At one point, he was panhandling on the street in Dallas. Mavericks owner Mark Cuban helped in 2020, getting him into rehab and covering his expenses. For a while, West even worked at that rehab center, but he relapsed. Since then, he's been arrested multiple times, trespassing in 2022 and resisting arrest in 2024. His current net worth is estimated around $1,000. He continues to struggle with substance issues and mental health. No bankruptcy filing has been recorded, but he's clearly lost nearly everything. His story is painful and it's ongoing. Deshawn Stevenson, drafted 23rd in 2000. He jumped straight from high school to the pros and carved out a 13-year career across 6 teams. He earned about $28 million in salary and picked up a ring with Dallas in 2011. He once had a net worth estimated at $10 million, but in true financial tragedy fashion, that didn't last. He made headlines for installing a $3,500 ATM in his house, stocked with $20,000 and charging his friends a $4.50 fee. By 2014, things hit the wall. American Express sued him for nearly $384,000. When they froze his bank account, they reportedly found $62. That same year, he defaulted on a $1 million mortgage. The bank foreclosed and auctioned the house, but he still owed more than $540,000 after the sale. His lifestyle didn't bankrupt him overnight, but those debts stacked up fast. Now, he's kept a lower profile. In 2016, he opened a barbershop in Orlando and seems to have stayed out of major legal trouble since. From the league to the Clippers, real ones, his path's changed, but he's still cutting through it. Glenn Rice, picked 4th in 1989. He played 15 seasons and became a 3-time All-Star, won a title with the Lakers in 2000, and ended his career with over 18,000 points. He also racked up around $68 million in salary. But once he stepped off the court, things got dicey. He burned through cash with reckless spending and made some spectacularly bad investments. At one point, he was close to losing everything. Then came the child support problems. In 2016, he couldn't keep up with the $1,500 a month he owed and got it knocked down to $600 after piling up arrears. It was a steep fall for someone who used to cash checks like that on a Tuesday. He kept himself afloat with autograph signings, training camps, and appearances, but that was far from the big league money. Now, things are a little brighter. He works as a scout and community ambassador for the Miami Heat, He's even got his hands in promoting mixed martial arts through G-Force fights. His estimated net worth has bounced back to about $20 million. Not quite the glory days, but definitely not broke. He got lucky, and he knew when to pivot. And if you're like me, the NBA offseason is your time to recharge. But while the game slowed down, your goals shouldn't. That's why I've been using Factor. Factor makes it insanely easy to eat clean with meals that are ready in just 2 minutes. No chopping, no dishes, just heat and go. I've been crushing their spicy turkey poblano bowl and blackened salmon. They're legit restaurant quality. Every meal arrives fresh, never frozen, and it's all delivered straight to your door. So instead of wasting time in the kitchen, I've got more time to work, chill, or dive into free agency rumors. Factor has over 45 weekly meals to pick from. Whether you're all about protein plus, calorie smart, keto, or just want to eat better, they've got you covered. They've also got snacks, smoothies, breakfasts, and even desserts. It's everything you need to stay on point all day long. Get started at factormeals.com/modernjam50off and use code modernjam50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code modernjam50off at factormeals.com/modernjam50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring. Kenny Anderson, drafted second overall in 1991, he played 15 seasons with 10 different teams and pulled in over $63 million in NBA salary. He made an All-Star team in 1994 and racked up more than 10,000 career points and over 5,000 assists. But the moment he retired in 2005, he filed for bankruptcy, and that wasn't a coincidence. He was spending around $41,000 a month, juggling 7 kids with 4 different women, and dealing with mounting child support bills. His car collection reportedly hit 11 vehicles. Add in legal fees from multiple DUIs, and the fortune melted fast. By the time the dust settled, his estimated net worth was under $1 million. After his mom died in 2005, he started spiraling. He also later revealed childhood abuse, adding another layer to his personal struggles. Still, he found his footing. He earned a degree in 2010, started coaching in minor leagues, and eventually became head coach at Fisk University in 2018. In 2019, he suffered a stroke, but recovered and kept coaching. His playing days are over, but he stayed in the game and turned a brutal collapse into a steady rebuild. Vin Baker, drafted 8th. In 1993, he played 13 seasons and made 4 All-Star teams. By the end of his run in 2006, he'd earned close to $100 million. But it didn't stick. Alcoholism took over in his later years. He drank in locker rooms, was suspended, ballooned over 300 pounds, and lost control. Gambling didn't help. He dropped nearly $1 million in a single night in Las Vegas. Add in bad investments, like a failed restaurant and mortgage default, and things collapsed. His $3 million home was foreclosed. By the time he retired, the money was gone. Then came the turn. He got sober in 2011. With help from Howard Schultz, he trained to manage a Starbucks. Seriously, that's where his reset began. He coached kids' camps, did broadcasting, and stayed visible. Then in 2018, he got hired as an assistant coach for the Bucks. 3 years later, he won a championship ring. Baker's now back in the NBA, sober, focused, and mentoring. From nearly drowning in addiction and losing everything to building a second act rooted in humility and purpose. He didn't just rebound, he completely rewrote the game. Joe Smith, picked first overall in 1995. He played 16 seasons with 12 different teams, more than anyone else at the time. He scored nearly 11 points a game and pulled in over 6 rebounds. In total, he made $61 million in salary. But after taxes, agent fees, and other cuts, he says he really only saw about $18 million. Then came the fall. At one point, he had just $3,000 in the bank and was more than $157,000 in debt. He bought homes in nearly every city he played in and often sold them at a loss. The luxury cars didn't help. Corvette, Bentley, multiple Range Rovers. His divorce in 2011 cost around $3 million alone. To dig out, he joined Alex Rodriguez's financial rehab show and started turning things around. He downsized, sold off assets, and launched basketball training programs in Atlanta. He also speaks openly about the mental stress at all costs. Today, he's still coaching and mentoring players, while his son plays professionally in France. He's not rich anymore, but he's stable, and he's done it by being real about the mistakes that nearly wiped him out. Larry Johnson, picked first overall in 1991, he racked up over $83 million in NBA salary through a 12-year career. He won Rookie of the Year and made 2 All-Star appearances before chronic back problems slowed him down. After moving to the Knicks, he shifted his game to stay effective, but his financial life wasn't as adaptable. He signed an $84 million extension in 1993, huge at the time, but by 2015, he was broke and filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. He listed around $800,000 in assets and owed roughly $300,000, including $90,000 to the IRS. He was also hit hard by child support payments for 5 kids with 4 different women. That number climbed to over $120,000. He even had to sell off his California mansion during bankruptcy, and when it ended in 2016, he had about $7,500 in the bank. At one point, an ex sued him for a dentist bill. Still, he rebounded. He rejoined the Knicks, this time in the front office. His estimated net worth now is around $500,000, and while that's nowhere near his peak, it's at least stable. Rick Mahorn. He spent over a decade in the league, made a name with the Bad Boys Pistons, and won a ring in 1989. He earned around $6.8 million total in salary. Not superstar money, but decent for his era. But by the end of 2009, it had all collapsed. He filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing about $228,000 in assets against over $518,000 in liability. His monthly income at the time was just over $6,000, while expenses clocked in at nearly $13,000. His house, once worth $1.3 million, was foreclosed. The IRS wanted over $200,000. He had $100 in cash and just over $1,000 in the bank. He leased an Escalade and owned 2 older vehicles. The bankruptcy trustee also flagged his missing NBA pension and championship rings. 1 was with his mom, and 2 weren't accounted for. After that, he dug in. He coached in the WNBA, did radio for the Pistons, and later played in the Big 3 league. Add in a pension and media work, and he's stable now. His estimated net worth sits between $3 and $4 million. Not bad for a guy who once had just $100. Travis Best, drafted 23rd overall in 1995, he played a decade in the NBA and earned about $18.2 million in salary. Adjusted for inflation, that's closer to $33.5 million. He played for 6 teams, including the Pacers, Heat, and Bulls, and finished his career overseas in 2009. But even with a solid, workmanlike career, he wasn't immune to financial disaster. He became one of several athletes defrauded by financial advisor Peggy Ann Fulford. She stole over $1 million from him, and in 2019, a court awarded him nearly $1.4 million in restitution. That fraud was a huge blow, not career-ending money, but enough to make a serious dent. Despite the setback, Best never filed for bankruptcy. He's kept a low profile since then, and used the court victory to recover much of the stolen money. There's no flashy post-NBA downfall here, just a cautionary tale about trust, money, and the importance of watching your back even when you're not spending like a superstar. Best stayed out of financial collapse and managed to keep things stable. Quiet resilience beats spectacular flameouts every time. Robert Swift, drafted 12th in 2004 straight out of high school, he played 5 NBA seasons and earned over $18 million, but injuries limited him to just 97 games and the money didn't last. After the league, his life unraveled quickly. He defaulted on a $1.3 million home in Washington and stayed there squatting after it was foreclosed. The place became trash, bullet holes, garbage, even feces. New owners found him still living there and had to evict him. Meanwhile, he fell deep into addiction. Heroin, meth, cocaine, alcohol. He cycled through them all. In 2015, he was arrested with an illegal short-barreled shotgun and spent a month in jail. Police later found him living with a drug dealer and seized more firearms. At one point, he owed $5,000 a month in child support based on his NBA salary, long after the check stopped coming. But somehow, he's clawed back. After rehab and reconnecting with family, he stayed clean and tried to rebuild. He played minor league ball in the D-League, Japan, and Spain. He's no star anymore, but he's alive, recovering, and working on redemption after a total collapse. It's brutal, but it's not the end. Cliff Robinson, drafted in 1989, he played 18 seasons with 5 teams and earned about $59 million in salary. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $100 million. He made 1 All-Star team, won 6th Man of the Year in 1993, and became known as Uncle Cliffy. But 2 years after retiring, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. He initially listed $12 million in assets and $11 million in debt, but later filings showed $7.1 million in assets and over $12 million in liabilities. He owed taxes and lost big on real estate. His Oregon mansion, once worth over $1 million, got foreclosed and auctioned. At the time of filing, he had $100 in cash and just over $1,000 in the bank. Even his championship rings and pension were flagged by the trustee. Some couldn't be accounted for. He bounced around post-retirement, WNBA coaching, radio work, Big 3 league appearances, and even a spot on Survivor. He also launched a cannabis brand, hoping to rebuild income. Then came health issues, a stroke in 2017, a jaw tumor in 2018, and lymphoma that ultimately took his life in 2020. Cliff's story is tragic, but also a warning. Big earnings don't guarantee security. Rest in peace, Cliff Robinson. David Harrison, drafted 29th overall. In 2004, he played 4 seasons for the Pacers, made about $4.4 million in salary, and somehow ended up working at McDonald's by 2013. His average game line, 5 points and 3 rebounds, didn't exactly make him a household name, but you'd still think $4 million could last longer than a Netflix subscription. He got suspended in 2008 for marijuana use, apparently enjoying a toke more than team meetings. Earlier, he'd been involved in the malice at the Palace Brawl, which earned him community service and some legal slap on the wrist. After his NBA run, he bounced through China and the G League. Eventually, the money dried up. He lost his house, his car, and took that job flipping burgers. But, and here's where he veers from the cliche, he pivoted. Harrison became a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. Then he co-founded Token Hi-Fi, a digital asset banking platform for cannabis businesses. That's right, former weed suspension guy now builds fintech for legal weed operation. Poetic. He's also spoken openly about mental health and addiction struggle, and now uses that mess as a map to build something better. No yachts or comeback games here, just someone clawing back with brains instead of buckets. Ray Williams, 10 seasons in the NBA, over 10,000 career points, averaged 15.5 points per game, and still ended up living in a broken down Buick in Florida. You'd think that's fiction, but welcome to the cautionary tale that is real-life pro athlete finance. He earned around $2 million in salary, not billionaire level, but still enough to avoid being homeless, theoretically. Except he spent most of it supporting his mom, his wife, his daughters, his siblings, and probably anyone who made eye contact. Then came 2 bankruptcy filings. He also took a lump sum payout of $200,000 from his NBA pension and promptly lost all of it in a Florida real estate scam. So much for sunny retirement. By 2010, he was living out of his car, scraping by on odd jobs and fishing to eat. Fortunately, Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, yes, actual good guys, helped him return to Mount Vernon with a city job in parks and recreation. He got married again and tried to rebuild, but life wasn't done. He was diagnosed with colon cancer and passed away in 2013 at age 58. His story is heartbreaking. Talented, generous, but tragically unprepared for life after the game. A sad story overall with Ray Williams. Sidney Moncrief, his run in the league, brought him around $7 million between 1979 and 1991. But the real trouble started after the final buzzer. He tried turning that NBA spotlight into a car dealership empire across Arkansas and Oklahoma. Sounds smart, until lawsuits and unpaid wages started piling up in the early 2000s. By 2004, he was on the hook for over $80,000 in back wages alone, and legal claims were already breaking 6 figures. Then it got messier. The Oklahoma Department of Labor made things official, and his finances nosedived from there. In November of 2005, Sidney and his wife filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Texas. Their assets barely crossed $130,000, while debt hit $1,190,000. Almost $800,000 of that came straight from the failing dealership operation. Creditors included Hyundai Motor Finance, the IRS, the Dallas Mavericks, and even a local newspaper. That's right, he owed a newspaper. What kind of financial path leads there? The same one where your post-career plan crumbles and your car business takes you down with. He eventually moved on, doing speaking gigs and coaching, but that hit was serious. Eric Strickland. He brought in around $13 million over 9 seasons in the NBA, but one real estate mistake in Georgia nearly blew a huge chunk of it. The deal came from a friend of a friend, which sounds sketchy already, but Strickland decided to trust the referral. His father, a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel and acting business manager, looked over the paperwork, and they went through with the purchase. The land was hyped up as a gold mine, allegedly worth up to $3 million. Strickland bought it for $1,800,000, thinking he was scoring a deal. But that valuation? Total fiction. The actual worth was way below what he paid, and the so-called deal turned into a disaster. It wasn't just the money. The emotional fallout was real too. That friend connection turned sour, and it wrecked the trust Strickland had in those close to him. That kind of loss hurts more than just your wallet. Even with a family member doing the paperwork, this shows how fast things can fall apart when you let your guard down. Strickland had to eat that financial punch, and the sting came with a personal cost that no appraisal could have warned him about. Randy Brown. He spent 12 seasons in the league, pulled in over $15 million, and won 3 titles with Chicago. But the victory laps ended fast. After hanging it up in 2003, he threw himself into restaurant and real estate investments. Spoiler alert, they didn't pan out. Those ventures collapsed, and by late 2007 or early 2008, he was filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy. He reported about $1 million in debt, covering everything from unpaid rent to IRS bills. The fallout got so bad that his 3 championship rings from the Bulls dynasty run had to be auctioned off. They were appraised at $40,000, but ended up selling for between $54,000 and $59,000. That kind of personal loss hits hard. You don't just lose money, you lose milestone. But Brown didn't stay down. By 2009, the Bulls brought him back into the fold, first as director of player development. By 2013, he was assistant general manager. That second chance wasn't flashy, but it brought financial stability and a clean professional restart. Brown's story isn't just about losing a fortune, it's about clawing back when everything feels wrecked. He rebuilt without needing a spotlight to prove it. Dan Issel. He racked up over 27,000 points during his 15-year run across the ABA and NBA, grabbed 7 All-Star appearances, and even took home an ABA title. He also reportedly earned over $61 million through his career. That's the kind of number that usually means never worrying about money again, unless you dive headfirst into bad investments. After hanging it up, he poured money into businesses and a horse racing venture. Neither went the way he'd hoped. By 2009, Issel had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. He owed around $4.5 million across 34 creditors, including family members, business partners, and the IRS. His assets, around $7.1 million, but his liabilities, they reached over $12 million. That left him in a financial hole over $5 million deep. He was forced to give up memorabilia, some collectibles, and even part of his pension. But he didn't just vanish. After settling IRS issues, he started working in oil and gas, picked up media gigs, stayed active in church leadership, and rebuilt his finances. This wasn't some dramatic freefall. It was a slow burn of poor decisions and missed signals. Still, Issel didn't stay buried in debt forever. Mookie Blaylock. He played 13 seasons in the NBA, scored nearly 12,000 points, handed out almost 6,000 assists, and made over $31 million in salary. Adjusted for today, that's about $61 million, but it didn't stick. His career took a sharp turn thanks to addiction and bad decisions that followed him long after the final buzzer. Blaylock dealt with substance abuse and alcoholism that escalated toward the end of his playing days. Things exploded in May of 2013 when he caused a fatal accident while driving under the influence. He pled guilty, served 3 years in prison, and got slapped with 8 more years of probation. That mistake came with serious legal costs, court fees, payouts, and other penalties chipped away at what was left of his fortune. This wasn't a one-time incident. Before that crash, he'd already racked up at least 7 other DUI charges. And despite earning well over $30 million during his time in the league, most of it disappeared into legal bills and the chaos around his personal life. Blaylock didn't end up bankrupt, but his net worth today sits much lower than it once was. A steep fall for someone who had everything set. His story is a clear picture of how fast it can all unravel. Chris Washburn, picked 3rd overall in the 1986 draft by Golden State, but that high draft slot didn't translate to a long NBA career. He played only 72 games over 2 seasons, averaged just over 3 points per game, and was banned from the league in 1989 after failing 3 drug tests. In that short span, he made about $1,250,000, and it vanished fast. By 1991, he filed for bankruptcy. Cocaine addiction wrecked both his game and his finances, and not long after, he was homeless in Houston. He lived on the streets, dug through dumpsters, slept in crack houses, and eventually landed in prison on drug charges. But in 2000, he got clean. He stayed that way. He opened a fried chicken restaurant back in Hickory in 2011, though it didn't last long. He later worked in mortgage collections and helped people experiencing homelessness. These days, he runs CW Enterprises, TAC, doing motivational speaking and youth outreach, plus local shuttle and go-kart services. He's been sober for over 24 years now. The fortune disappeared, but he found a way to rebuild a life built on purpose instead of points per game. Eric Williams, drafted 14th overall in 1995. He played 12 seasons in the league, bouncing around to 7 different teams and racking up close to $40 million in salary. Adjusted for today, that's nearly $70 million. But all that money didn't come with a guarantee. By 2007, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing $1.9 million in debts. A big part of that came from unpaid child support. He owed over $24,000 and couldn't even afford a lawyer. That's not an exaggeration. He publicly claimed he was homeless by 2014. He even appeared on TMZ, not for courtside drama, but because of how far things had fallen. He later showed up in ESPN's Broke series, admitting he'd lost every bit of his NBA earnings. This wasn't about reckless luxury spending. It was about failing to manage obligations, missing payments, and not setting up a safety net. One of the biggest lessons from his story is how fast it can unravel, even with millions in the bank. Eric Williams didn't just lose money, he lost footing. And despite 12 years in the league, his post-career life became a warning, not a victory lap. Derrick Coleman, first overall pick in 1990, played 15 seasons and stacked up nearly $90 million in salary. He averaged 16.5 points and over 9 rebounds a game, with totals north of 12,000 points and 7,000 rebounds. That's a rock-solid career on paper, but the money didn't last. In 2010, Coleman filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. His debts were listed around $4.7 million, while his assets barely reached $1 million. That included a Bentley convertible, fur coats, jewelry, and real estate, including homes for himself and his mother. The core problem? Detroit. Coleman invested heavily in real estate during a time when the city's economy was in free fall. He was trying to help, revitalizing neighborhoods and opening businesses, but the recession crushed the project. Coleman's corner was one of the biggest flops, and he also had money tied up in restaurant franchises and retail that folded. Even after liquidation, he was able to keep his NBA pension, bringing in about $90,000 a year. Since then, he's focused on rebuilding. He went back to Syracuse to finish his degree, got involved in clean water advocacy in Flint, and runs a youth league. His net worth today sits around $2 million, down but not done. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching,